All right, everybody. Hello, hello. Yeah, it's two points. 2 points. All right, 2 points. This doesn't count. I'll be right back. The 2 points count, but this next part doesn't count. I'll be right back. Sorry. I needed this. I needed this. Hello, hello, hello. Wait, I want water too. I'll be right back. I want water. Hold on. All right. Now we got everything. We got everything. No, it's 2 late points. It's 2 late points. It's not 7 late points. That's insane. That is insane. That is insane. That's crazy. That's insane. 7 late points. What the hell? 7 late points. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now. Oh, what the hell? Hold on. It's not letting me load. This thing, god damn it. So now we've set up so much security that literally every fucking time I try to open up anything on the YouTube channel, it makes me do like 3 passwords. This is BS. This is what the hacker has done to me. It's ruined everything. Made me even more late to streams. Let's get the stream likes up to, okay, I'm sorry, we're good. We're good now. We're good now. The 2 late points, you know what? Fine, let's call it 5. Let's call it 5 late points. We'll call it down the middle. Call it down the middle. Fair to everybody, you know? That's what's fair for everybody, in my opinion. Call it down the middle. Taptio, thanks for the 2. It's time to apologize to Hadrudin, Mr. Baby Loki. No, Hadrudin's still weak as fuck. If someone can show me any hockey on the attack, I'll apologize to Hadrudin. If not, then no apologies. Hadrudin is the same strength he was in Dressrosa, unless proven otherwise. I'll apologize if next chapter something is shown. Oh, here, let me screen share real quick. All right. We're going to add 5 late points here. Because, look. I think people are like, yeah, he's still Bumrujin. This confidently puts Emu above Moose level. Yeah. Look, if we go to, look. Hold on, let me see something real quick. The smart search, hold on. Hold on. What is it? Luffy versus Hadrudin, right? Luffy versus Hadrudin. It currently shows... Yeah, okay. Do we have panels for this? Do we have panels? Oh, I don't know if it has panels yet. Okay, but chapter 714, Lucy and Usi. If this had panels, this would be really good. If Max is listening, if this had panels, this would be really good. Yeah, let's check this out. Okay? So chapter 714. For those of you who don't know, there's Smart Search now with Lore Square. So it can track anything that... You can look up anything that you want that happened in One Piece, and it will pull it up for you. So I think a pretty good tool. If you guys want to try out Lore Square, here's the link. Look, as far as we know, forget Machvis, because people think that Machvis was Hadrudin's only fight. It's not. Hadrudin genuinely loses to Dressrosa Gear Second Luffy. Not even loses. This is Hadrudin's strength. It's essentially below Horty Jones. So let's keep that in mind. It's below Horty Jones. It's below Caesar Clown. It's pretty bad. He was caught off guard. But we saw him fight Machvis, and he was on guard the entire time and got fucked up. How is he caught off guard? How is this being caught off guard? What are you talking about? What is this? He's looking straight at Luffy. How is this off guard? He gets one-shotted by Gear Second. By Gear Second. Is Luffy even in Gear Second right now? Is this Gear Second? Yeah, this is Gear Second. Hadrudin is canonically below the likes of Horty Jones, Caesar Crown, etc. This No, I'm not malding. I don't think there's anything wrong with Hadrudin punching Emu. I'm not one of those people. I'm not like, oh my god, Oda, what are you doing? Characters can hit strong. Hadrudin, we know, has like a lot of physical force. There's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong. Off guard Emu sends him flying. I got no issue. I got no beef with that. That's all good. I'm just like, that doesn't translate to Hadrudin's actually really strong. Hadrudin is canonically really weak, which is also the point of his character. Does that make sense? So it's not even a power scaling thing. It's literally the character writing around Hadrudin is that his core conflict is that he's extremely weak for someone who wants to be King of the Giants. Fiery Hornet, thanks to the 2. Loki, Luffy, and Hadrudin combined equals top 3 character. All right, I guess the whole stream's basically going to be this, so we'll just we'll roll with that. Robosuke says, how do you know he's the same level as Dressrosa? Great question, because we actually know all of Hadrudin's activities in the meantime. He had a full-ass cover story that detailed that his journey since Dressrosa was not training, it was sailing around to recruit his friends. And then ever since then, I think he's been Elbaf hunting mooses. He currently still needs the help of another giant to carry one moose. There's not much else to say. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Tiptiu says he literally survived an Omen sneak attack. Hey, it is what it is. Oda, that you can chalk that up to Emu using 0.01% of his strength, right? There's not much else to say there. I'm just giving you facts. This is how strong Hadrudin is in straight combat. Straight combat, no surprise attacks. This is Hadrudin. Again, this is not really anything to even debate, because again, it's not a power scaling thing. It's the point of his character. Point of his character is that he's weak. Let's get Streamlux up to 50 real quick. Rin Egan Pine, thanks for the 2. Biblo dropping the 4th glyph location or Emu lore? I think Emu lore. Interestingly, next Tuesday's video is about Biblo a little bit. It's about Biblo. It's not specifically about Biblo, but he's a core part of it. Next Tuesday's video is about Biblo. Meek, thanks for the 10. Welcome back. Here's a 10 to celebrate that hacker being gone. Thank you, Meek. I appreciate it. Sorry I missed that stream, lol. It's all good. It was a fun stream. Finally catching up on One Piece after 2 months. Was not expecting Luffy to get back up so fast. What the fuck, Oda? Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. We'll just see. Like, you guys know the train I'm on, right? So, all I'll say is, like, when I put out the last video, which was, like, Luffy will defeat Emu and Elbaf, I stand by that. I think this arc is headed toward, like, just look at the energy right now. To me, the whole energy was literally, like, the idea is first show how strong Emu is, have him fuck up Zoro, Sanji, Loki, Luffy, Gaban, all back to back, right? We hit a low point, and now it seems like the resurgence, right? To me, there's not much point. If this is all going to end in them being crushed by Emu, then Oda could have already done that and called it a day. Like, we've already kind of hit that point, you know? So, to me, it seems like a classic get back up, fight, kick Emu's ass, you know? Send him out of Elbaf. Emu remains as a final villain for the end of the story, but Elbaf, I think, ends with Emu getting a bit of an ass kicking. Jordan Vance says, can I please get my mod status, Baxter Morge? Yes. Emu's first form is better? Yeah. TomTom says, I just DM'd you the username if any people I remember need mod status back. Thank you, TomTom. Let me pull that up actually right now, just so I have it on the side in the screen. Real quick. Virgil Hawkins, Meek, did I not add you back? I thought I added Meek back already. Oh, Meek, I did not add you back. My bad. Hold on. Um, Plug D. Roger sent happy poop for 10 jewels, thank you. Despite Dressrosa and Mach-V's, Hadruden contributing in a 4v1 with Luffy and Loki is justified. He's Herald's son and should be above other giants. He's not above Dorian Broggy. He's definitely not above... I will entertain the possibility that he's gotten a lot stronger than Dressrosa, but still need to see a little bit more of him in action before before we see that, you know? Because Hadruden, as far as we know, it's not just Dressrosa and Mach-V's. People, like, his first showing in battle was so bad against Gear 2 Luffy and Dressrosa that people straight up forget that fight. So he actually got 0 diffed by Dressrosa Luffy with 1 punch, and then he went extreme diff with Mach-V's. So that's Hadruden's combat level. He's also never been hyped up to be strong by any giant ever. I don't think even his crewmates have talked about him as being strong, right? And in fact, again, the recurring idea has been that Hadruden is very weak for the successor to Herald, right? So those are all the Hadruden points. Now, maybe he's gotten some major power up in Elbaf, let's see. But at the moment, I'm taking this more as like symbolic shit rather than anything else. Kind of like, you know when we all freaked out about Brook blocking Emu for one moment? And everyone's like, oh my god, Brook's crazy strong, etc. And it's like, let's give it a chapter, you know? Before we determine if it's like Brook's freakishly strong, or if it's Oda just being Oda and giving a character a cool moment for the sake of a cool moment, rather than that actually being the character's strength, you know? Top tier Trivia, thanks for the tube. +1 penalty for 250 should be reread all of Wano. I think did I mention this in last stream? Which was like one of my biggest fears was that the hacker, if I never got the Google Drive back, that I would have to, which meant that all my notes for the Wano analysis would be gone, which would mean that the greatest punishment I would have to face from the hacker would be rereading all of Wano from start to finish, you know? Brandon E says 10k tons is 20 million pounds. Irrelevant because Oda doesn't do any sort of logic to his... That's the shit that I know that when people say that, I'm like, okay, you're too far gone in power scaling because you essentially think that the author, rather than taking time to like write out the story, just write cool moments. There's no shot at you, Brandon E. It's just something I've seen mentioned in chat a couple times. Oda, I promise you, is not sitting down and going into Google to calculate like the metric tons of force required to do that punch. Oda's just putting down cool numbers. All right. If this was Baki, then I would give that to you. If this was Baki, I'd give that to you because Baki's author all about the fights, right? So every fight, it's like, did you know the number of G's required for this thing or that thing is actually this, and the cardiovascular heart rate beat or whatever, blah, 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 is actually this, and the reaction time takes this point X amount of milliseconds, etc., right? This isn't Baki, this is One Piece, where Oda is just going to throw out stupid shit. I remember when Horty Jones, for example, you remember when Horty Jones did that water droplet flick that traveled like miles or like a mile and like pierced through like a bunch of rock formations on the way through? I remember when that happened, people were sitting down and doing like calculations because, you know, this was a time where like One Piece fans tried to argue their verse versus Naruto and Bleach fans, etc. And so people would argue like, oh my god, Luffy's new opponent, Horty Jones, if you do the math, he's like a Dragon Ball Z level character. It's like, no, it's fucking Horty Jones. This guy's a fucking scrub. Like, once you actually see him fight, it doesn't really matter, you know? Oda's not sitting there doing the physics math. I think Oda and physics don't go hand in hand. Voila Musa, thanks for the 5. The paradox of One Piece is that power scaling matters to the story, but Oda clearly doesn't care about maintaining it being consistent. Yeah, that's the thing. Power scaling does matter a lot to the story. I mean, this whole fucking arc is about getting stronger and getting to the next level. That's literally what Gavan's whole fucking speech to Luffy is about, right? But Oda ultimately values cool moments and cool character stuff above that, so you can't ever get really... you can't have it both ways. I would prefer fans just, like, accepted that that's a weak point of the story rather than the trying to play defense, which is like, oh, power scaling doesn't matter in One Piece. It's like, then I don't know what the fuck does, because the main fucking focus of all these fucking characters right now is getting stronger, and that's like the fucking character arc that he's essentially writing for Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji in the storyline. So essentially that's basically saying like the character writing and entire character journey of these characters is something Oda doesn't care about, but still puts it front and center of the story. I don't know. You know, like if this was a fucking anime like fucking what's one that's, I don't know, like that orbits around the world or something, or like fucking Kaguya-sama or something, then you could come in and be like, hey, power scaling doesn't matter, let's not critique the story about this, but this is fucking One Piece. If you read all of the fucking dialogue in the last several chapters, it's like all power scaling shit. Oda's just not good at it. That's basically it. And it's understandable why he's not good at it, because I think to be really consistent with power scaling stuff, you need to put in time and effort. Like, look at Togashi. The man takes like break after break after break to kind of keep fights relative. I actually don't think Togashi's the best at. I think if you go back in time and look at I don't know. You need an author like fucking Baki or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you need authors who are like really dialed in. Jujutsu Kaisen. There we go. Jujutsu Kaisen. I mean, even Jujutsu Kaisen fans compare about power scaling stuff to some degree. But you need an author who like puts power scaling like first in terms of their focus, right? Oda likes power scaling in terms of the idea of like getting stronger and stronger and moving up the ladder. And I do believe Oda has a general idea of what the ladder is. I think that that's become very clear over the course of the story, that he has a general idea of the ladder, and a lot of it's based on statements and portrayal, etc. But I think Oda doesn't care as much about moment-to-moment interactions, where it's like, I don't think he's thinking like, okay, so this character is like Toby Roppo level, therefore they should be able to do X amount of damage, or be able to speed blitz, or dodge, or tank this amount of damage from a character that's like this level or something, like level SS versus like level C or something. I don't think he thinks about it like that, you know? I think in the broadest sense, Oda views it as like, okay, if I have a character this strong versus this strong, I know who's generally supposed to be above whom, but if I need this character to stall this character for X amount of time, I'm just going to make it happen for the story, you know? Snap, thanks. Hadruden is too big of a target like Morji Pie. Oh my god. Meek, thanks for the 5. I feel like Luffy should have sat and marinated in his loss for a bit longer to really sit with Gabon's words more, though. No. I agree with that, but I'm kind of going to let this play out, because I don't think Luffy's going to crack it this next go-around either. I think we're going to see Luffy knocked down one more time. So I agree with that, but I think that's a short-term thing. I'm giving Oda benefit of the doubt for the longer term play that he's doing with Elbaf, because I don't think that the fight's wrapping next arc or next chapter or anything. New X722. I know I need to add you as a mod, so give me a second here. Thank you, New X7. Thanks for the 5. Hi, Morge and chat. Currently in Italy visiting my nephew and cousins. Morge, you said you didn't want games, so try Ghost of Tsushima and Batman Arkham. I played a little bit of Batman Arkham at a friend's place. I played a little bit of Batman Arkham. Strife? Yeah, I got you. I remember I used to think that you were New X7, but, you know, two different people. Ghost of Tsushima I probably will play at some point, when I get free time, somewhere down the line, far in the future, something like that. Taptio, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 16 months, man. I hope you enjoyed the Pirate King podcast that just came out. For those of you who don't know, the Pirate King podcast for the month did come out, slightly delayed due to the whole channel situation, but Pirate King podcast is my once-a-month podcast where I answer questions from all viewers who are Pirate King tier, and it's fairly long. I go in-depth into topics that people ask me about that are One Piece related, that aren't One Piece related, yada yada. It's about an hour and a half. If you want to support, join Pirate King tier. You get access to Pirate King tier and all previous Pirate King podcasts, which there are now 40 of, so that's kind of crazy. I know my Pirate King podcast submission was good when my Blackbeard 3 Mythical Devil Fruits theory only complaints was scrap in plus shorten it. I do have shorter Pirate King ideas, but long comments are priority, making membership worth it. Totally fair, dude. I think it's more so just like, if everybody has a comment that long, it just becomes difficult. But I did like the theory quite a bit. It's a good theory. With all three, for those of you who don't know, his theory is that the Gura Gura no Mi and the Yami Yami no Mi are both mythical Zoan fruits, and then Blackbeard potentially getting emus would make Blackbeard the mythical Zoan god fruit wielder of both the darkness, or Pluto, god Pluto, Yami Yami no Mi, Earth God, and presumably Sea Devil all in one, which it fits a lot of themes of the story together. Red and Silver 741, thanks for the 10. I think Oda's trying to show that because Luffy believes food heals him, he then believes it heals his wounds. Oda makes it clear others think that's ridiculous, but because of Gear 5, it actually works. I'm still, like, unsure how healed Luffy actually is. I'm kind of waiting on the Viz translations. Let me take another quick look at this. Like, how... I don't think he's truly healed here, right? So I don't know if he's really healed. I think maybe we'll get some clarification next chapter. Like, maybe it falls into Luffy's... Like, what do you guys think? Do you think he's healed here, or what do you think? Magnus9450, thanks for the 5. Did the most damage to Emu, made Emu put Roger Pirates in the realm of rocks, made Emu transform, second biggest conquers Haki Blasts next to Joy Boy, Waban. I agree with all of those things, except for the second biggest conquerors Haki Blast. I think it's nowhere close to that, right? Warcuries is a lot bigger. Big Mom's was bigger on the rooftop. Shanks obviously bigger. But, you know, that doesn't... I guess I'm being technical, right? I also don't think he did the most damage to Emu. I don't know. I think that's hard to debate, because it's the cut above the eye. But I think... I don't know if he did the most damage to Emu. What do you guys think? I think so far, as far as I know, Emu has not been hit while he's been focused, right? Because I think, like, while he's been paying attention to the attack. Because from my understanding, is this correct? Gaban's 8,000 slash attack, I don't think that caught Emu, right? The cut that we see there is from the previous attack. I don't want to lowball Gaban here, so I just want to get the clarification on this, you know? Like, Gaban, does the Yachi Takeru cut him? No, right? It's blood from the previous attack, right? Because the previous attack, he catches Emu when Emu's focused on Luffy. But I don't want to underrate Gaban here. Gaban has shown out way beyond what people thought. For the record, if you go back earlier in this arc, my feelings were that old Gaban and old Rayleigh were still at least above Zoro, and people would have, like, taken your head off if you said that early on. My feeling was that if you looked at Gaban, like, I think a lot of our views of, like, I feel like if you looked at Gaban objectively, how he was portrayed in his initial matchup with Luffy and Zoro, to me, it felt like he was schooling them. I think Oda didn't want to address what happens if Gear 5 Luffy actually fights old Gaban. You can debate all day how that ends up going or whatever, right? So Oda cut the fight short right there when Luffy went Gear 5, but it seemed pretty clear from that encounter that old Gaban is fucking 2 steps ahead of Luffy and Zoro, you know? At least in terms of battle experience and Haki expertise and just, you know, all of that stuff, right? So to me, it was like, he would definitely fuck up Zoro, and I think Oda's leaving it ambiguous how it would go with, between Luffy and him, right? That was my feeling back then, but you can't say that without people freaking out, because in general, most people's opinions back then were kind of like, no, Luffy, of course he's above old Rayleigh at this point, what a joke, Luffy's a Yonko, yada yada. Keep in mind, the number one gasser of Rayleigh and Gaban, in general, historically, not the number one, I guess, I don't know all YouTubers, but at least as far as I know, I'm the only dude that if you look at top 30 lists and stuff, I have fucking Rayleigh above Kaido and Big Mom. I have Gaban above them as well now. Back then, I kind of wanted to put a Gaban there, but there's so much fucking pushback. I was like, all right, whatever. But, yeah, I've always felt like the wings of the king are the fucking wings of the king for a reason, you know? So, I'm not trying to downplay Gaban or anything like that. I think people just felt like Gaban needed to be below, you know, old, like, Luffy and Zoro right now or whatever. They were like, he needs to have surpassed them already. But or like Luffy needs to surpass, you know, old Rayleigh and Gaban already. But yeah, I don't know. Aether GM, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 41 months. Are you aware of the pole shift theory? During Law's backstory, Dofi had a map with the compass flipped. I typed more, but I think that YouTube thought I was on some flat Earth stuff and wouldn't send. The pole theory, I remember there was a YouTuber who put that out, and it kind of blew up a while back. But there were some clear holes in it that became apparent very quick. But it was just like, from what I remember, it was a YouTuber. She was a Japanese girl. This is what I remember. It was a Japanese girl. And people freak out anytime a theory is put out by someone that's Japanese, because they're just like, oh my god, they must have so much more insight into the story. And like, if you really look into some of the theories, it's just like, this is dumb. So, I don't know. Like, she was literally referencing like Splash Mountain in Disney World or something like that. And I was like, there's no fucking way that Oda planned out the end of the story based on Splash Mountain in Disney World. But I don't know. I don't know. You literally had Kaido and Big Mama stronger after God Valley. Go check my top 30 streams. Go check my top 30 streams. My all-time top 30 streams. I had Rayleigh above them, and at that point in time, I wanted to put Gaban right there with him, but and I wanted to put Rayleigh and Gaban over Sengoku. People were fucking freaking out about that. I'm fucking taking old Rayleigh and Gaban above Prime Sengoku. Oda has never once in the story portrayed Sengoku as anything special. Never fucking once. Outside of being like Garp's little sidekick or whatever. Never once has Oda tried to portray Sengoku as anything special. Sengoku couldn't even fucking stop pre-time skip Luffy. Pre-time skip Luffy, no haki. Sengoku as the last wall of defense at Marineford. The entire fucking operation, the entire reason that they're fighting this war is to execute this motherfucker Ace. Sengoku is the last line of defense. He couldn't stop pre-time skip Luffy from freeing Ace. Pre-time skip Luffy. The entire, like, sincerely, if Ace had gotten away right there, is Sengoku not instantly fired? How is he not eating absolute shit after that? Right? Like, isn't that fucking bizarre? Like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, what chapter would this be? What is this? I don't know why I'm going off on Sengoku right now, but it's insane to think about. I feel like it's chapter 570. Look at this shit, alright? The entire fucking thing, like Garp, yeah, Luffy gets past Garp because Garp throws, okay? Garp is throwing right here. Therefore, Luffy gets past him, right? You know who's not throwing? You know who actually wants Ace executed? You know who organized this whole shindig? Like, Garp could have stopped Luffy right here. Didn't, right? Kizaru tries to stop him, alright? You know who organized this whole thing? Who, by the way, is standing right here and looking at Luffy. He's standing right there. He is right there. This is insane shit. He's standing right there. Why do you need to go giant form? You don't need to go giant form. Why are you turning giant form? Halt, does Sengoku think he can't stop base Luffy pre-time skip in normal form? Fucking Sengoku Kizaru, while fucking fighting Whitebeard, is having to hold the fort down, taking out this key. The key. Sengoku still hasn't done jack shit. Sengoku says, I'll execute you myself. Note, he throws out a punch. This punch is meant to execute Ace, by the way. Apparently doesn't even have haki on, or maybe it has haki on it. Fucking Luffy tanks this shit like it's nothing and is ready to go not 2 pages later. And this was Sengoku's best effort. This is Sengoku's best effort. Anyway, but people freaked out when I tried to put Rayleigh and Gaban over Sengoku. I still remember that. Insane shit. Sorry, I did not realize I wasn't fucking sharing. But you guys can watch this, right? Look at this. So, Luffy, obviously Garp throws, right? Garp throws, and then you've got Sengoku right here. This is his job. He is the last line of defense. This is Sengoku's whole thing. He's the fleet admiral of the Marines. Luffy and Ace have a whole fucking conversation. Ace Sengoku turns giant. No reason to turn giant, right? Kizaru has to stop Luffy from using the ki, because apparently Sengoku would not have stopped Luffy in time from using this ki. Sengoku still doesn't stop Luffy. There's enough time for Luffy to complain about the ki being lost. Sengoku to say, I'll execute you myself. Mr. 3 to wake up. Luffy to have a conversation with Mr. 3. Sengoku throws his best shot. This is the shot that's meant to execute Ace, by the way. It has Haki on it, so he does do that because it damages Luffy. And Luffy still... everyone survives. Everyone survives in the getaway. How is Sengoku not fired immediately after this? The balls of Sengoku to, after this, go to fucking Kong and be like, you know, I think I'm going to retire. If I was Kong, I'd be like, motherfucker, you're fucking fired. What do you mean retire? What the fuck? Sengoku has never once been hyped in the history of the story, like by Oda. I get outside of being his name being thrown in with Garp, you know? Roger did shout out Sengoku that one time, but come on, man. Sengoku, I don't know. Anyway, Rayleigh and Gaban, those two have actually got, like, stories around them, you know? Characters actually gas them up. Anyway, continuing on. Zolden, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 36 months. You should consider watching Black Sails. Best written dialogue for any series I've seen. The ending is satisfying since the prequel to Treasure Island. What? Also, some characters basically have King's Haki. Maybe I'll check out Black Sails. Right now, the list is getting a little bit long. I do want to jump into another... You know what I'm going to watch next? What I'm watching next, my fiancé and I, we're going to watch... we're going to be watching... what do you call... We're going to be watching Knight of Seven Kingdoms. That's the general plan. That's the general plan. Joe Benji says he was kind of good at tactics. I guess by One Piece standards. One Piece doesn't really have tacticians in that same sense, but yeah. Roger only shouted out Sengoku because he saw him leech from Garp. Yeah, that's my feeling. Also, let's get Streamlights up to 100 real quick. I'm seeing a lot of hype, people gassing up Black Sails. Here, I'll put it down. Yeah, I'll check out Black Sails. I've heard good things. Power Vision says same. Oh, you're watching Knight of Seven Kingdoms too soon? Yeah, no, please no spoilers on Knight of Seven Kingdoms. Empty Mind, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 13 months. Hey, Morch, I just saw you recently say that you found Gintama funny. This was in the recent Pirate King podcast. I think you would absolutely love the series. I finished it recently. I can say it's top 2 anime with the best protagonist ever. Must watch. I might watch... I've heard so many good things about Gintama. Yes, there's a sincere chance I'll watch it. It sounds so dumb because I'm a One Piece fan. I know Gintama's really long. That's like one of the biggest things holding me back from watching it. I know it's really, really long. I found it really funny. Like, I've watched tons of Gintama episodes, but only the comedy ones, you know? Like, I can reel off a bunch of Gintama sketch moments, you know? Obviously, the classic toilet paper one, Dentist, Hot Springs. Hot Springs is my personal favorite. Dragon Ball Z parody, Popularity Polls one, the Bleach parody where the Zanpakuto comes to life, Gintoki's sword comes to life. I know, I feel very familiar with the Gintama world and characters, but I just don't really watch the actual series much. Like the storyline stuff. Hero Striker Neo5516, thanks for the 10. Hey Morge, did we underestimate Gaban a little bit? Looks like he did a little more damage to Imu than we thought, not that it had a huge effect, and Imu admits Gaban was supposed to take a lot more damage. I think from the beginning of the arc, like, I've said that, you know, I viewed Gaban in a higher light than most people did, but I think even the biggest Gaban, like, ride or dies from the beginning of the arc, I don't think they would have imagined that 80-year-old Gaban, like, Prime Gaban, sure, one thing, right? But I don't know if, like, anybody really had on the cards that 80-year-old Gaban at this age could do this shit, you know? At this age, you know? In terms of underestimating Gaban, I mean, like, at the end of the day, we all know what his kind of limit is. So we know that he doesn't really scale the... Like, even a much younger version of Gaban, 14 years ago, doesn't scale the characters like Loki, you know? Because we already saw the Herald incident. So we know how strong Gaban essentially is. We already know how strong Gaban is. We don't... like, this isn't new stuff, I guess, that would really put Gabon in conversations, I think, that we didn't have him in as of last chapter. But it does give us a good idea of how he stacks to, I guess, like, Luffy and injured Loki at the moment, you know? Plug D. Roger sent happy poop for 10 joules. Thank you. Justin, thanks for being a Pirate King to your member for 46 months. So you say that the fight is the lesson for Luffy if what he must do to be the freest man of the seas as the Pirate King and all that means, right? Plus, it's a lesson for the future Pirate King crew as well. I believe that that's the direction that this is all going. Gabon's performance is also Herald and Loki upscale, not gonna lie. Yeah, exactly. Like, the better that Gabon does here, the higher healthy Loki stocks go up, you know? Most characters don't scale to Loki. Yeah, I know. I think it's more so just like I'm putting things into perspective a little bit, which is like it's not as the because I saw people saying that Gabon above Loki and like some crazy stuff. I'm like, no, let's put things into perspective. From what we know, Gabon still doesn't have enough Conqueror's Haki to like put down a Holy Knight or something. Like there's hard limits to the character even in his prime, you know? Apparently nobody's like did Roger and them even kill Holy Knights? I don't know. Parvision says, yeah, Gabon surprised me versus Emu, and I was a Gabon believer, even Glazer. Yeah, dude, I think even the most... It's kind of like, you can really like a character, but you know there's limits to how much they can realistically do. So, like, let's say I really like, what do you call? Let's say I like Loki, right? Let's say I like Loki as a character. I'm like, man, I think Loki's really strong. I'm confident that Loki, if he was healthy, would do way better against Emu than he's been showing so far. But even I, in my wildest imagination, would not imagine, like, healthy Loki one-shotting Emu, right? So I think that's kind of the leap with, like, even if you're a Gabon hardcore fan, you probably imagine, like, let's say you're a hardcore Gabon fan from the beginning of the arc, you probably imagine something like, Gabon might be even stronger than like old Rayleigh, right? Like, so you might think that Gabon might be about old Rayleigh's level or even like a little bit above, and therefore you might think that Gabon might be even in his old age, right? Roughly admiral level or something like that, right? I don't think you would imagine Gabon outshining fucking Gear 5 Luffy against the strongest character in the world. Right? Even if you were a hardcore Gabon fan, I think that would almost sound like fucking fan fiction, you know? Andrew says the higher clean underwear Loki stocks go up. That's a good way to phrase it. Julian Reed, thanks for the 5. Lands 1 off guard on Emu for 0 damage. Basically a really hard shove. What's the big deal? Did you all do this anytime Kaido got hit on the rooftop as well? No, I mean, I started this. I only started addressing Hadruden stuff at the start of the stream because I thought people were kind of getting out of hand with the discussion surrounding him. You know, I didn't like. To me, there's nothing wrong with Hadruden being the one to come in and do this. There's nothing like I don't think there's anything crazy about this. To me, I think it's to me what Hadruden did is not out of the norm for what like might make sense for Hadruden to do, which is like a surprise. I think what we've seen so far is that if Emu's caught by surprise, a lot of things can kind of like send him flying, rock his shit, you know? That's what it seems like so far. If he's caught by surprise, you can send him flying. All over Elbaf, apparently. Like, the amount of times Emu's been slapped around, obviously it's been by much stronger characters like Loki and Luffy, etc., but, you know, it's happened. So this isn't crazy. To me, it's just like, okay, yeah, like if Gabon or like Hadruden lands like a clean hit, even he can send Emu kind of going that way. I feel like people are going too far when they're like, oh, this now means that Hadruden is like crazy strong, like Luffy and Loki's level. It's like, no, that's not what the character's about. And we've already seen plenty of Hadruden. He fucking sucks. The point of the character is that he fucking sucks, but he tries anyway, you know? Look, I might be totally wrong. Maybe next chapter we see Hadruden fucking using Haki or something. The man still has not used Haki as far as I know. But maybe next chapter we see Hadruden like awaken his true potential, or maybe it's revealed that Hadruden like secretly trained and got a lot stronger or something like that. I don't know. Maybe that happens next chapter. But to me at the moment, it's kind of just like, this is Oda giving Hadruden a nice little symbolic moment, you know? WB Loom 0, thanks for the 5. NL dominated his scenes and brought emotional tension more than Emu is. I feel like there's been no emotional peak points since Whole Cake. I think that it's tricky because there has never been an arc where, like Skypiea, where, look, NL is a different case because you can't really do the NL situation again. You can't really do the NL situation again because there's never been an arc outside of like Marineford and Sabaody where it's about just everybody losing, right? Let's say this, in a traditional One Piece arc, there's never been a storyline where the gap between the villain and the rest of the cast has been as big as NL and the cast in Skypiea. NL was very literally untouchable. Like, he could not be damaged. He was meant to feel like God, right? The point of Skypiea was that Luffy is essentially a loophole because of his matchup ability that allows him to be the only one that can fight NL, right? Because he negates NL's ability. But the whole point is that NL is like, literally nobody can do jack shit to him. He's like so insanely above everybody else. Luffy essentially counteracts that, right? It's not even like Luffy becomes way stronger than the rest of the cast and defeats NL. It's the other way. Luffy essentially, like, Oda wrote it so that NL's powers are way up there and everybody else is down here. But with Luffy, because of Luffy's abilities, it essentially cancels out NL's advantage and humanizes him and brings him down here, right? So that's not going to happen again in the story, because in every other arc in the story from there on, there's going to be strong villains, but they need to be beatable by Luffy in conventional means. You know what I mean? Like, Lucci is really strong, but at the end of the arc, Luffy actually, like, Luffy's not going to have a natural matchup advantage that's going to negate how strong he is, you know? Fucking Kaido, Doflamingo, these characters are really strong. Like, Kaido was much stronger than all of the heroes at Wano, but you still have to write it like, well, they can at least damage him and scratch him. You have to be able to write it like that so that by the end of the arc, he can actually be defeated, because there's no silver bullet to defeat someone like Kaido, right? So it's not really fair to compare Enel, because it's like, Enel was written to be, he's the only villain so far that's been written to be only beatable by having essentially a silver bullet answer. And so because he's written like that, he can essentially be written to be untouchable, undamageable, unbeatable for the entire arc until that silver bullet cuts him down, which is Luffy's rubber, right? With other villains, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, other villains like Kaido, Imu in this arc, etc., yeah, they need to be written to be, like, really strong to have that presence, but at the end of the day, there's not, like, a magic, like, counter to Imu that just negates all of his strength. There's not a magic counter to Kaido that negates all of his strength. So you need to write the characters in, like, they can be way stronger than the heroes, but still, like, damageable, right? Like, the heroes still need to be able to fight against them. Ano is the only character that Oda would write that the heroes can't even fight against, because there's supposed to be, like, a magic-specific counter to Ano. Oda hasn't written any other arc like that. He doesn't have another villain like that. I don't think I would like if, personally, if Imu was just, like, so strong that nobody, Loki, Zoro Sanji, Gaban, etc., like, nobody could even, like, touch him, you know? And then Luffy's only able to fight him because, like, Luffy just magically counters all of Imu's powers, you know? I don't think I want that sort of storyline again. I think that was cool one time for Skypiea, but going forward, I want to see Luffy actually become strong enough to fight whoever he needs to fight, or at least, you know, I want other characters to be able to do things against Imu. I would also say that I think part of this is the weekly reading experience, because this language right now of, like, Imu not having the emotional tension and stuff of Enel, I think it's kind of forgetting. It's just because right now we're at the turnaround, right? So before this, if you guys remember, there was a run where when Imu arrived, right? Like, no one was saying this when Imu arrived at Elbaf. When Imu arrived at Elbaf, everyone, like, the whole island's freaking out, hockey everywhere, trees singing, etc., crazy tension across the board, and then Imu starts going off, and he's just, like, slicing up giants, one-shot Zoro, one-shot Sanji. If you go back and read reactions to that chapter, everyone was like, holy fuck, this guy's, like, God, right? And then after that, Imu takes out Loki, and then you can, again, go back and read reactions after Imu defeated Luffy, right? 1188? 1188? Go back to reactions to that, Because at that point, Imu had essentially just like ran the gauntlet of defeating Zoro Sanji, Loki, and Luffy all back to back to back to back, right? At that point in time, everyone was like, holy shit, Imu is him, right? Even the next chapter where Imu's like torturing Luffy and everything like that, and like handing out weapons to his subordinates, everyone was like, holy shit, this is crazy. It's been the last two chapters where part of it is like the breaks between chapters are so big. So like we go from, oh my god, Imu has just like destroyed everyone Elbaf, he's torturing Luffy, he's a god, to the next chapter, which is Gaban, 80-year-old Gaban, actually kind of showing out a little bit against Imu, even if he lost his arm, right? And then there's 2 weeks of that, so like the last memory that readers have in their head is like, oh, 80-year-old Gaban actually fought back against Imu. And then we get this chapter, and now another 2-week break, where it's like, what we're sitting with is the last instance we saw of Imu is fucking Hajruden punching him across the island, right? So it's been essentially, like, there was a solid series of months, or like weeks, where Imu was just like, putting belt to ass to all the strongest characters on Elbaf. But now, because of the breaks and everything like that, the things that are most recently in our readers' heads, you know, at all of our heads, is basically like, now characters actually fighting back a little bit against Imu. So the part where he was like destroying everybody and, you know, that, and just establishing a very oppressive atmosphere, that's a little bit in the rear view mirror. So we don't feel that in this moment. And now we've got 2 weeks before we get to see how Imu responds to this situation, you know? So I just want to put things in perspective a little bit, because it's like, to me, it's a little bit reactionary. You could just rewind a few weeks to when Imu was like stabbing Luffy like a pincushion, and everyone was like, oh my god, this guy's living up to everything we thought that he would. The Soul King, yo-ho, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 13 months. Sup, Morge, catching a stream from London on vacation. Hope you're having a good vacation. What's the weather like there? Just want to say I'm glad you got the channel back. Hope you aren't facing any long-standing issues from it. Sending you much love, man. No long-standing issues as far as I can, you know, tell. We had to up the security somewhat. Let's get stream likes up to 100 real quick. Let's get stream likes up to 100. Regal Void sent Corgi. Thank you. Morge, please sponsor TCB again. The website is unbearable. If you get okay, so the problem with us working with TCB before, not that there's anything, there were no real issues with, like, they're easy to work with and everything. The problem is formatting. So ads for One Dream Studio, we could only show them as a horizontal banner across the bottom of the screen. Showing them as a horizontal banner across the bottom of the screen doesn't really let you showcase the posters well. So we tried different things. It just wasn't good for visibility. And I'll say this, the other routes that well, no, I don't want to say anything. But yeah, like, we had a good working relationship with them and everything, but after a bit it was kind of like, we can't showcase just through the simple nature of how the site is functioned. Outside of doing pop-up ads, which everyone would fucking hate, right? Outside of doing pop-up ads, the only way to really showcase posters was to have like a small strip at the bottom of the page. That doesn't showcase the posters well, so it just wasn't a good investment in the long run, basically. Steve's Emporium says, did the video spam not kill your algorithm, or was it generally okay? So YouTube has gotten better with those sort of things, where if you have videos go up, if you remove them from the channel, they no longer hurt your algorithm. So it's okay in the long term. We did lose subscribers a little bit, but not a huge amount. So we actually really appreciate that people understood what was going on, and like 99.9% of our, like 99.5% or whatever of our subscriber base basically understood what's going on. Videos are going to go back to normal. People didn't unsubscribe, so we appreciate that. And since we got the channel back, most people did resubscribe and everything. So, you know, the weather's quite nice, to be honest. That's nice. That's my one thing with a potential trip to London. I just always hear the weather's not the best. I've gone to London once for a few days when I was a kid with my family, like we stayed, like, because London's on the way to India, so we stayed with some family friends there and just made it a bit of a longer layover, so a few days in London. And the weather was nice during that period. Meek, thanks for the 5. The way I see it is that if Roger disbanded his crew, Rayleigh and Gaban decided to become captains, they would have been more successful than Big Mom and Kaido. Oh, 100%. 100%. Their biggest competition would have been each other. Voila, Musa, thanks for the 2. Do you use AI in daily life? As a dev, it's kind of nuts. I was one of the last adopters of trying to use ChatGPT because I am a slow person to try out new technologies. I just generally don't trust new technology. I don't know. Like, to me, it always feels like foreign and strange. And I'm like, well, my life's good without it, so I don't really need it. I did eventually start trying out ChatGPT. I forget after why. Like, it was just like everybody's using it, everyone's talking about it, so I did try using it. I do use ChatGPT now for different things. It's faster for just like quick questions, but anything that's like significant, I do look further past ChatGPT because it does get things wrong frequently. I haven't tried. I think I signed up for Claude at one point because I have a marketing agency, so I've heard that Claude is very good for copy and everything like that. When I signed up for Claude, for some reason it was loading really slow. I think that there was an issue with it on that day, like issue with the Claude servers or something. And then I actually forgot about it. So that's actually a good reminder. Let me check that out. Yeah, so ChatGPT is actually good for, when I say use it for daily life, the marketing agency is the biggest thing where it's good to bounce stuff off. It's not gonna do the best job creating stuff for you, but if you give it, like, how do I say this? Like, in terms of like landing page copy, ad copy, etc., if you present it two things, I think it's kind of good at being able to say, this one's a little bit better, that one's a little bit better. And then it's also good at spitting out a lot of options for like little headlines or something like that. Like, put this under this headline or this under this headline. It'll spit out like 10. And then if a lot of them are bad, but one of them's like, oh, that's an angle I hadn't thought of, then that helps me think in a new direction. So there's whatever. I don't know. I don't think, obviously, AI is the worst. It's bad for the future, yada, yada. I use it sometimes. I get that it's not good. I get that it's bad. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's convenient. Saint King J, thanks a lot. Sengoku at God Valley was a vice admiral. We know he doesn't hate promotions, so he is canonically a fodder compared to Garp, who is already over Yonko. That is a very good point. That's a very good point. Is Old Gaban still stronger than Zoro and Sanji? I definitely think so, but I don't think he will be after the end of Elbaf. I personally think by the end of Elbaf, I think everyone's getting big jumps. I think by the end of Elbaf, Zoro and Sanji will be stronger than Old Gaban. Which is funny because, like, it sounds... It's funny because, like, it's an insane... It sounds crazy on one hand after seeing everything Gaban did just now. So it's like, Zoro and Sanji are going to go from, like, getting one-shotted by Imu to that, So it sounds crazy in that sense. But then on the flip side, it's like, but logically they kind of have to. Because if they can't at least be above Old Gaban at this point in the story, right? We're at the fucking end of the story. There's one, maybe two storylines left, right? But it seems like the final war is fucking kicking off in a second, right? If Zoro and Sanji can't be above 80-year-old Gaban at this point in the story, how the fuck are they going to surpass, like, not just prime Rayleigh and Gaban, how the fuck is Zoro going to be above Mihawk at the end of the day, right? Like, how is any of this going to make sense, If they can't be better than 80-year-old Gaban, then how are they going to make the jump to above prime Rayleigh and Gaban in, the next big storyline? It doesn't make sense. So they kind of got at least past Old Gaban here. Goomba Boomba, thanks for the 2. Thoughts on the Luffy healing situation? I don't know. Like, okay, I said this before. Is Luffy healed? I don't think he's healed. Right? Is he is he kind of healed? What's going on? Oh yeah, and Gaban's injured. I fucking forgot about that shit. Gaban's injured right now. Sanji had to carry him upstairs. Sanji had to carry this dude upstairs. This is crazy. Old, injured Gaban I don't know. EOS Zoro isn't necessarily Prime Zoro, but you would still expect end of story Zoro and Sanji to be above Prime Rayleigh and Gaban, right? Do you think that, because we all expect Luffy to be above Roger at that point in time? Yeah, isn't he just running on willpower and shit? While on Musa, thanks to the 2, I just finished Black Sails 2 and I approve it. Okay, I'll consider that. I'll put that on the list. Let's get Streamlabs up to 100 real quick. I think Knight of Seven Kingdoms comes next because it's short, sweet. You know, we just finished Widow's Bay. Also, that's a fun one. That's fun. I like Widow's Bay. Takes like I'd say give it like two episodes, 3 episodes. Julian Reed, thanks for the 2. Oda's addressing Luffy's Gear 5 stamina issue right now. BTW. That's a good way of looking at it because by all accounts, shouldn't Luffy have run out at this point? Like, he's taken so much damage. He's already been in the form for a minute. Fatingo, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 38 months. Glad to see you back, man. Glad to see you, man. I don't know if it was mentioned, but does a triple break back to back to back is more or less helpful as a content creator? Less helpful. It's not bad when Oda leaves us with a lot of stuff. So, okay, so put it this way. There was a time, so after Wano ended, Oda actually left us with some pretty crazy cliffhangers. Okay, so after Wano ended, Oda took a month-long break. Oda took a month-long break. Keep in mind, this was a period of time I was actually stressed because the raid had just not failed, right? And the last year and a half of videos, I had mentioned that frequently, as you all might recall, right? So in my mind, I was like, am I going to lose all my viewers? That was literally a thought that was in my head. I was just like, I know the raid didn't fail, but I have other good content. Like, I hope I don't just lose everybody. It was actually the opposite. I think, funnily enough, I think, number one, a lot of people had actually stopped watching a lot of my videos. And they said this in the comments. A lot of people had actually stopped watching my videos for a while because they didn't want to keep hearing about the raid failing. So a lot of viewers actually came back to me. So that's number one. But number two, with Wano ending, Oda, he went on a month-long break, but right before that month-long break, he hit us with a lot of little cliffhangers. So I think it had just been established that Buggy had become a Yonko. Green Bull had just arrived in Wano, and at that point in time, Green Bull was actually hype. It was only after the break that Oda had Shanks like big dick Green Bull, but the last thing Oda had Green Bull do was show up in Wano and like capture King and Queen. So and then start walking to the Flower Capital. So everyone was like, "Holy shit, this dude's like the last admiral we were all waiting for. How strong is he gonna be?" I think the Sabo Flame Emperor stuff had just come out. I might be wrong. It was several things. Yeah, like several things that Oda back to back left for us that were open-ended things. And then he went on a month-long break. So it was 4 weeks of no chapters, but interestingly enough, there wasn't there was so much to talk about from that. So like one, I talked about the end of Wano somewhat. I think I talked about the potential fate of Kaido and Big Mom. But I also got to talk about like how did Buggy become a Yonko, right? And for the record, I actually nailed that where I said that, you know, I think Mihawk joined up with Buggy, and that did turn out to be true, etc. Didn't matter because the raid didn't fail, but just silver lining. And I put out a video about, you know, Sabo and Sabo's future. Like there were so many things to talk about, right, coming off of that. This is a little bit different because it's one thing if like imagine Oda drops like crazy world building chapter break, crazy world building chapter break, crazy world building chapter break, right? That's actually not the worst thing because lots of times after like a crazy chapter, I have multiple things that I want to talk about, right? So it's like, cool, I've got next week's video and then a break week, so I actually get to put out 2 videos. I get to cover everything that I want to talk about coming out of like the break gives me the opportunity to cover multiple topics. I don't have to pick between like which is the stronger topic to go with or which am I more interested in, right? This is a different scenario because right now we're in the middle of a fight, right? So it's been essentially we're seeing different, like we're not switching topics too much, right? Because we're not switching topics too much, there's less, because I don't want to keep putting out the same discussion points, right? So I talked about Luffy getting a power up. I really loved right after Imu had fucked up Luffy. I put out that video about how like I really analyzed that defeat and why this was a really great defeat, etc. I talked about, just this last video about, I've put out a few videos now of how I think that Elbaf is actually heading towards a sort of team effort to, like, I think that they're actually going to do well against Imu. I think that there's going to be sort of a team effort that will kick Imu's ass by the end of this arc, but just not permanently, right? I put out last video saying how, like, I really think that it's looking like Luffy is ultimately going to close this arc out by giving Imu some hands, But now I'm done talking about that for the immediate future. I'm not going to put out another video talking about the end of Elbaf or how Elbaf's going to wrap up for some time, because I've covered my bases with that. I've talked about how I think the team effort's going to play out. I just talked about how the power-up that I think Luffy's going to get by the end of the arc, which is Conqueror's Haki related. And I talked about this last video, how it all comes together, with really the finale of Elbaf really being about Luffy coming into his own with Conqueror's Haki, driving Imu out of Elbaf himself after the whole team battle has sort of played out, and it comes down to Luffy versus Imu 1v1, right? So I've talked about all that. Unless something major changes, now there's nothing specific that I'm going to talk about here with that angle, right? Now with this chapter and the last chapter, right, it's cool stuff with Gaban, but it's not really progressing things in a sort of crazy way. So I'm no longer, now it becomes a little bit harder as a content creator, but it's not the worst because I've got an interesting theory coming out next chapter, which is actually about Biblo, right? So it's some stuff I've been wanting to talk about Biblo for a little bit. Now I've got a little window where it's like, okay, I'm not going to, like, the fight's still going. There's not new big updates for the fight that I want to say and put into a video. So now I can take a step back and talk about Biblo. And then the week after that, there's this big Blackbeard theory that I've been wanting to put out. I've been thinking about saving it till, like, there's a Blackbeard moment. But now I'm kind of just like, let me just put it out. I think it's a cool theory. Let me just put it out. I don't have to talk about something topical to Elbaf at the moment because I think that this is more interesting. So I hope that makes sense. So, like, multiple breaks is triple back-to-back breaks. I don't think this has happened before because it's just a really weird cadence. So either what Oda usually does, like, a longer break, like sometimes he'll take a month off, or he'll do, like, 1 or 2 week break even or something, sometimes towards the end of the year. But chapter break, that's very new. This is my first time really experiencing that. And it doesn't help that it's in a phase where we're just, like, in the middle of a fight, so not much new information. Does that make sense? Oh, Virgil Hawkins, here we go. Luffy can heal himself, he's broken. I mean, tell that to all the fucking Gods Knights and Gorosei. They already have that ability. Let's get stream likes up to 100 real quick. I think fair is fair. I'm just kidding. I don't know if I would like Luffy just being able to heal himself because I personally think that, not because it's a broken ability, because lots of characters have regeneration at this point in time, but more so because I like Luffy having to fight through pain and injuries. That's always been part of Luffy's thing. He takes a lot of damage but keeps on coming, But I don't think he just doesn't seem like truly healed here. Magnus9450, thanks to the 2. End of story Sanji, Crip walking on Mihawk. I think it would depend on the gap between, like, how much stronger Zoro is than Mihawk by the end of the story. Because, if Mihawk is Zoro's final opponent, then there's no chance Sanji is Crip walking on Mihawk, right? Like, because I imagine Zoro and Mihawk's final duel would be, like, really, really extreme diff, right? It's the same way that I don't think, like, Sanji after, defeating Mr. 2 would, like, just be Crip walking on Mr. 1. Or, Sanji after defeating Queen would be Crip walking on King, like, I think that whoever Zoro's final opponent is, I think it's going to be extreme diff for Zoro. And therefore, you can interpret it however you want, but I don't think it would be like a guaranteed win for Sanji, right? Whoever Zoro's final opponent is, I think Zoro barely beats, and therefore, people will argue till the end of time whether Sanji can beat that opponent or not. But there's no chance that Sanji would just be like head and shoulders above that opponent. Because I don't think even Zoro will be head and shoulders above who he beats at the end of the story, you know? It depends on if whether or not Sanji can beat Mihawk end of story, I think depends a lot on if Mihawk is Zoro's final opponent as well or not, you know? If Mihawk is not Zoro's final opponent, let's say Zoro beats like S-Hawk, which is like Mihawk but way stronger, then I think there's a solid argument that maybe Sanji would be able to beat normal Mihawk, you know? If Mihawk is Zoro's final opponent, I personally don't think Sanji would be able to beat him, just because I think it would be like kind of crazy if Zoro pretty much dedicated his whole life and journey to being able to defeat Mihawk, like becoming strong enough to defeat Mihawk, and then he barely does it, but Sanji's also just become that strong, and so Sanji can just beat Mihawk without his goal ever having even been to get that much stronger. I don't know, you know? Rudhow, thanks for the 5. You think Loki or anyone could get a Law/Wiper moment where it looks like they killed NL/Dofi, but then they revive themselves somehow against Imu? I think that could Loki happen to Dragon. I think that could Loki happen to Dragon. I don't know. Parvision says, can you Crip Walk Morge? No, definitely not. No. You don't want to see me dancing. You guys ask, like, I know it's not dancing, but like Bollywood dancing and stuff, all this stuff, you guys don't want to see me move. Not like that. Not good at it. Never felt comfortable. JP, thanks for the 20. Reread the last 10 chapters. Imu been bleeding multiple times. Wasn't sure if it was because of Loki and Gaban. Now it feels like his body's independently molting the longer he goes, like overrun with Maki or something. I mean, I think I would need to give it a bit of a reread myself, but I feel like he's taken hits, you know? He's taken hits. Like, he's taken clean hits from Loki, clean hits from Luffy. Gaban, Conqueror's Haki cut from Gaban. Yeah. We will see more hit the ball. No. Virgil Hawkins sent hiding for 10 jewels. Virgil Hawkins comboed hiding for 10 jewels. Virgil Hawkins sent happy poop for 10 jewels. Thank you, Virgil. Dapper Ash, thanks for the 5. At the rate chapters are coming out, we're probably going to get chapter 1200 the same day Doomsday hits theaters. A lot of big battles in December, huh? Ooh, interesting. That's really interesting. I'm low-key excited for Doomsday now. Even though I told myself I would probably not even watch this in theaters. But now it's gotten my attention. I'm probably going to fucking watch Doomsday in theaters. Because I enjoyed Brand New Day. And the latest trailer for Doomsday was sincerely good. It was cool. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick because we're almost there. Saint King J, thanks a lot. Couldn't catch the celebration stream? No problem. Glad you got the channel back. Thank you. Welcome back, Morge. Also, did I lose mod roll because of the hacker? I got you, King J. I got you. I do remember you were mod. And yes, you did lose it because of the hacker. Daniel Denving, thanks a lot. Do you think there are more Nerona family members? I think so, but maybe not alive today. But I think like back in the past. Alive today, I don't know. Maybe there's like a hidden family member or something. There's always that theory of like Mihawk Nerona. Who knows? Fatingo, thanks to the 2. Please share the lore of Oof and what did they do? Oof was just a bad person. That's all I gotta say. Oof is just a bad person. They were not a good individual. They were a bad individual. If you want to see the lore of Oof, you could go to Morge Unleashed and say like, I think the video is like Morge versus a viewer or Morge killed a viewer or something like that. I don't know. Tier Trivia, thanks to 2. It's time for catching up to Hunter x Hunter or Kagurabachi streams. I think that might be the thing that fills the break week, so I still need to see about that. Actually, let me make a little note to myself because I forgot about this. Okay. Voila Musa, thanks to 2. Black Sails has the most gruesome execution scenes. Oh, interesting. Okay. I don't know if that's like part of the appeal necessarily, but it's good to know. Remix King Dynasty seems close to Dynasty. Thanks for the 5. What's up, Remix King? Is this the same Remix King? Are you gonna ask about Pokemon? Hey Morge, JK, this is really random, but where do you think Kid fits into this arc? I believe Shanks blasted him onto the island. I think if Kid is going to return to the story, it would be here. Because they can use all the help that they can get against Emu. And if at this point Hudge Rudin can fucking contribute, Kid can contribute. So if Kid is meant to return to the story, to me it's like now or never. It's now or never. You gotta show up now, right? Otherwise, if he doesn't show up now, I'm gonna assume he's at the bottom of the ocean. Because if with Kid, either he's at the bottom of the ocean or he's alive on Elbaf, right? Those are the only 2 options. And he has observation hockey, I think. Like, he's got to know a huge fight is going down. So, I mean, yeah, this is actually really interesting because this essentially tells us whether or not Kid is dead. If Kid does not show his face, period, in this, then we have to assume he's dead, right? Because there's no way, like, the battle is so large scale. You've got MMAs and all of this stuff all over the island, the craziest hockey blasting all over Elbaf, right? Maybe Kid's in Heaven Realm. Maybe he's in Heaven Realm. Still really curious how Heaven Realm goes, but I don't know. Finny P515, thanks for the 10. Hey, Morge, do you think Luffy will finally surpass Roger's bounty after Elbaf like he deserves, or will Oda undersell him once more? Love the streams. Thank you. I appreciate it. I low-key feel like it's possible that the Straw Hats get their final bounties after Elbaf. I think it's possible. Because I'm just like, after the final war, once the dawn of the world and everything arrives, why would there be bounties on their head at that point, you know? Wouldn't they be heroes? I don't know. It would be just bizarre if it's like, dawn of the world, guy who saved everybody, Nika, yada yada, 5.6 billion berry bounty. I don't know. I think Elbaf might be that's also why I feel that Elbaf is set up to be an arc where everybody's going to get their to show out. I think everybody's going to get big power-ups, or at least most of the crew is going to get big power-ups. I think everybody's going to really show out against Emu. I think everybody's going to, just do really well against Emu. I think this is the arc where they finally start to step in, like, past the Yonko crew sort of territory into, like, Pirate King crew type of territory, right? And I think they get their final biggest bounties after that. And I think it just makes sense because bounties are a symbol of what? How much the world government views you as a threat, right? Bounties are like a pirate versus the world government sort of thing, right? Bounties are assigned based on your level of defiance against the world government to some degree. It's like the same way the Straws got their huge big bounty boost after Enies Lobby, which was their big storyline going up against the world government, and everyone on the crew got their big bounties, right? Probably to date, I would say the Enies Lobby bounty reveals and all of that is the most, I would say, I might be wrong, but I think that's the most iconic and memorable sort of bounty releases for the whole crew that we've had in the story, right? The next thing would be, against the leader of the world government himself, right? Like, to me, this conflict, because I sincerely think that in the final war, what we're heading towards is the Straw Hats' enemies will ultimately be the Blackbeard pirates. I think this is kind of the storyline for Luffy and the Straw Hats against Emu. I think that's why Oda set this up. I've explained this in previous videos, but it just narratively, like progression-wise, it just makes sense, right? Final War, you want to introduce the bigger, badder villains. Blackbeard pirates, have them usurp Celestial Dragons as the final villains, right? That's who the Straw Hats will defeat to save the day. I think other characters like the Revolutionaries, like even the red-haired pirates, stuff like that, will really be responsible for taking down the Celestial Dragons in the Final War. I think that's why Oda wrote this conflict for Luffy and the Straw Hats against Emu, right? You know, because already, if Oda just wanted, like, think about it like this. If Oda just wanted this arc to be about dropping Emu into the fray, right? Just to show off Emu's powers against the heroes, right? Show off Emu's a big threat. establish how strong he is, have Imu go back home so that everyone can fight him in the final war, right? If that was just what this arc was about, why isn't it over already? Sincerely, what if Oda's purpose was just, the classic thing of have the big bad villain of the future come in, flex on the heroes, show off how strong he is, and then save him for another day? We're done with that, To me, the fact that it seems like we're in for a long, drawn-out fight, other Straw, Zoro Sanji are getting a power-up, Luffy, Loki, they're getting more rounds against Imu. Imu's showing transformation after transformation, yada yada. We're in for a battle here. Like, this is, to me, the setup for the Straw Hats versus Imu. I think Oda's checking that off. This is the biggest battle that we're really going to get of the Straw Hats versus the representation of the Celestial Dragons. And then next arc, the Straw Hats, their final villains are going to be the Blackbeard Pirates. Everyone else will take care of the Celestial Dragons. The Straw Hats will get the big bads, which are going to be the Blackbeard Pirates. That's my perspective on it right now. Maybe it's totally wrong, but that all goes back to basically say, that's why I think that their final bounty reveals are going to be after this arc, because they're going to give Imu the work, the fucking leader of the world government, the work, right? They're going to give him the corporation. He's going to go back home and be like, there is a crew out there that I fucking hate more than the Rocks Pirates, more than the Roger Pirates. These are like the worst pirates we've ever had. Give them their final bounties for the story. Straw Hats head into the final arc of the story as the, like the new age emerging Roger Pirates, basically. And that's the arc where basically things have to go even beyond Roger Pirates, etc. They have to become the ones who bring the dawn of the world. They'll have bigger fish to fry than the Celestial Dragons in the final war. It'll be the Blackbeard Pirates. Does that make sense? That's how I view it. No way One Piece is ending the next arc. I mean, I guess you could... A simpler way to put it in terms of... if you think there's a small in-between arc like Zou, that's totally fine. When I say One Piece ends next arc, I'm generally referring to next, like, real arc. Like an arc where there are going to be fights and battles and big climaxes and everything like that, right? There's nowhere else to really go from here, from my... Like, maybe they go to Lodestar and that's like a Zou type arc or like an in-between pause arc, where they get some lore shit. That's fine. But I'm saying in terms of battle, where the fuck else do they go from here? They fought the Gorosei last arc. They're fighting fucking Imu this arc, right? Imu, world's strongest, right? Everybody else, like all other characters, are putting their, like, they're making their moves. You could argue that the final war has already begun. The next storyline for the Straw Hats, that's like a battle action-oriented storyline, it's either going to be Laugh Tale or the final war, or essentially both of those things mixed together, right? Sure, maybe there's like a lore, like a little break Zou arc or something in between, but that's not really relevant to this discussion. I'm just like, whoever they're fighting next, it's gonna be in the final war, right? Finny P515, thanks for the 10. Hey, Morge, do you think Luffy will finally surpass... Oh, no, we covered this. That's how I got on this tangent. JP, thanks for the 5. Years ago, I sent a dono joking about Imu possessing Dragon to fight Luffy. Crazy how Imu turns out to, wait, what is this? Oh my god. Hold on. Oh my god. Wait, I got a few... Okay, crazy how Imu turns out to possess people, but might also still need a vessel. Crazy how Imu turns out to possess people, but might also need a vessel. How Imu turns out to possess people, but might also need a vessel. Yeah, I mean, that is actually a really crazy call that you made. I'm processing that now. That's a crazy call. I don't think Imu's going to possess Dragon, but yeah, it is crazy that the reality is that he does possess characters to be able to, like, whether that's Saturn, Gunko, etc. Tofi, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 45 months. In chapter 1190, as Imu is about to be hit by Gaban, he says, old as... Oh my god. Screen... Hold on, I gotta refresh this. Okay, sorry. Tofi, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member. I hope you enjoyed the latest Pirate King podcast. In chapter 1190, as Emu's about to be hit by Gaban, he says, "Old as you are, you're still a pirate crew member." To which Gaban replies, "I could say the same to you." Do you think this carries some relevance? The Viz translation of that seemed to clarify that Gaban wasn't saying that Emu was a member of the Pirate King's crew. That's what the Viz translation seems to imply. So unless there's some further clarification on that, I'm not reading it too much into that as like, oh, Emu is part of Joy Boy's crew or anything. Rud How, thanks for the 5. Luffy, self-heal not new. You all forgot Luffy revived himself once against Kaido. Kaido killed him, then his heart started beating like drum and Luffy revived. That's true. That's true to some degree. It's just like, that was the Devil Fruit Awakening, so people kind of viewed that as a one-off moment. Again, to me, I just don't know if Luffy's like healing. He's still bleeding and shit, right? Elijah Petty, thanks for the 2. So do we still assume that Loki is greater than Prime Roger? I'm gonna assume that until proven otherwise. I think again, I just go off of the Herald scenario, you know? I just go off the Herald thing, which is literally just the exception would basically be for Prime Roger to be above Loki, it would basically need to be what? Prime Roger would need to be decisively above the likes of Rox and Herald, you know? Roger would need to be above Rox and Herald, I think, for me to feel like Loki is for me to feel like Roger could be above Loki, you know? Because we've talked through this a bunch, right? As far as we know, I don't think Roger could kill Holy Knights, right? I think that's kind of implied by Gaban. I don't think even Roger could kill Holy Knights. And even further, Gaban implies that we know that Roger scales to Whitebeard. Gaban says that even Whitebeard couldn't have killed Herald. And this is Whitebeard 14 years ago, so arguably prime Whitebeard, right? This was during the period of time like where Whitebeard before Whitebeard was on life support and shit, you know, like relatively healthy Whitebeard, right? So Gaban says that, Gaban's claim about Herald is pretty insane, which is that he believes that Herald beats not just Whitebeard, but the entire planet. He doesn't think anyone on the planet can stop Herald yet. So my view is basically Loki, from statements and everything like that, from scaling, he should be above Prime Roger. But maybe we get more clarification, you know? Maybe we get more clarification. What old Gaban just showed is pretty crazy. It's just hard to compare him to Loki because Loki ultimately did fight Emu for a lot longer, and Loki is on the verge of death. So it's hard to use what he's doing right now, like, to scale him properly. Ace but comeback, thanks to 5. Emu lost aura with this transformation. Bro went from perfect cell to middle stage cell. But the thing is like, okay, first of all, let me do two. Roger couldn't kill Holy Knights. I don't know. I think it's specifically established that the pirates weren't in their prime at God Valley, but the thing is that they weren't far off. Like, it's stated that Whitebeard reached his prime, like, 2 years after God Valley. And Whitebeard was the youngest of the group, so it's kind of like, does that mean that Roger and Garp reached their primes, like, a year after God Valley? I don't know. Yeah, Herald was boosted by the contract and it gave him regen. That's the thing. Like, to me, for Prime Roger to be above Loki, it would mean that Prime Roger has to be, like, solidly above Herald, like a whole tier above Herald, because it would mean that Prime Roger basically has to be stronger than fucking Holy Knight Herald, right? Again, from Gaban's own statements, I don't think it sounds like Roger and Whitebeard could have taken Holy Knight Herald, you know? The thing is, like, this form is cool as an in-between form, because you could go back through, fucking Frieza had some fucking dumbass looking transformations for some time, you know? It's just the cool ones that we remember. Is this form cooler than Emu's previous form? Yes, no. I think I liked Emu's previous form a little bit better, but as long as this is a transition form, I don't really, I don't have much thoughts. LARP Lodger Lightbeard. Oh my god. I can tell what type of agenda you have. I don't get this hypothetical Prime Roger people keep yapping about. We literally see him in his prime against Whitebeard during the Odin flashback. What puts him above Loki and Herald? Yeah, I mean, one, you could say we didn't see much of their fight. We just saw one clash, you know? So I think that's argument number one. Their clash is not as impressive as the Rocks and Herald clash, in terms of, you know, hockey and what they did and everything like that. So, but I don't know how much Oda, like, how carefully Oda scales what each clash is, you know? Like, I don't think you can just compare Roger and Whitebeard's clash to Rocks and Herald's clash and be like, oh, well, Rocks and Herald is better, therefore, I don't know. Okay, most people don't think that Imu's... Yeah, I liked Imu's previous form better, which is funny because people were kind of roasting Imu's previous form when it came out, but I think that Imu probably has one more form in the, you know, in the chamber. Voila Musa, thanks for the 5. Last time you shit talked actors, very funny. Aren't you afraid to ruin directors your future opportunity? Would your director Marvel have given the possibility? I mean, like, I would be nice to whatever actors I worked with, and I would say, hey, I once acted too. Like, I know how theater kids are or whatever. I would be nice like that. But would I direct a Marvel movie if given the possibility? Listen, right now, I have 0 directing opportunities, okay? If someone out of the blue came and was like, hey, would you like to direct a Marvel movie? I'd be like, fuck yes. Beggars can't be choosers. Now, in an ideal universe, right? Like, let's pretend magic fantasy world, I'm a director and I have opportunities to pick to some degree what projects I work on. In this fantasy world, I don't think I would ever want to direct a Marvel movie, because it's a bit more, from my understanding, it's more in a box. That's not to say you can't have directorial creativity with a Marvel movie. I think that there has been flashes of that in various movies, right? Marvel movies, but, you know, I'm not going to say, like, James Gunn didn't get to leave his stamp on Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Or Taika Waititi with, sorry if I butchered the name, with, like, Ragnarok or whatever, right? But it just wouldn't be the type of movie that... there's still a lot of constraints, and, like, there's a certain style to adhere to, and certain, you know, and it has to fit into the broader cinematic universe. And I think that's the thing with all Marvel movies, is that I think they all feel like they're setting up for more movies, you know, like they're... Even Brand New Day, which I really enjoyed as a Spider-Man movie, very much focused on, like, it was the most character-focused of the Tom Holland Spider-Man so far, right? Even with that, it still felt like we're setting up stuff for mutants and Jean Grey and stuff in the future, and what's going to happen with the Hulk and Bruce Banner in the future, right? Like, and then, you know, the post-credit scenes and all of that stuff. Like, it feels like you're a cog in a machine, but you can be a really cool cog. You can be a really fun cog, you know? And it's like it's a really cool machine in the grand scheme of things. So, it just, you know, in that world, if I had options, I don't think I would do a Marvel movie. But if somebody out of the blue is just like, if let's pretend I'm trying to get my footing in filmmaking or something. If someone came out of the blue and was like, you want to direct a Marvel movie? I would be like, please, yes, please, I'll do whatever. I'll do anything. I'll fucking, give me your worst superhero. I'll try and do my best. Give me whoever the fuck, you know? I'll try my best. MOH77, thanks for the 5. Maybe Sanji can't unlock Conquerors and Kid has... Oh my god. Do you hate Sanji? That comment is foul. I'm sorry. This MOH, your comment is maybe Sanji can't unlock Conquerors and Kid has to save him from killing him. You must hate Sanji, man. That is a dirty... I'm just imagining that scenario where it's like, oh, to set up all this good stuff for Sanji, everyone's really excited to see what can happen. Sanji's got to awaken, you know, the king inside of him or whatever. And then we get one chapter into Sanji versus killing him, and then Sanji's like, oh, I can't do it. I Turns out I don't have conquerors. Save me, Kid Sama. And then Kid shows up and Solo's killing him, and it's like, all right, guess I am number 4. Jinbei, Jinbei, you take my spot in the monster tree or whatever. Isaiah Davis, thanks for the 5. If Luffy uses Bajrangan and immediately overpowers Imu, is that Kaido upscale? Kaido clashed with it for 2 entire chapters. I would agree that that's Kaido upscale. I would think that's Kaido upscale. I mean, it would depend on what Imu's trying to use to block it. If Imu's just trying to use his bare hand to block it or something like that, and Luffy starts to overpower him with Bajrangan, I don't think that's that big Kaido upscale. But if Imu has to use, like, you know, that like really large Maki, I guess, attack, whatever, Maki shield, whatever you want to say, that Imu had to pull out to block Loki's first attack, right? If Imu has to do something like that against Bajrangan and it doesn't work, like Bajrangan breaks through the Maki defense, then that would be big Kaido upscale. I think that'd be big Kaido upscale. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think anyone has gotten an attack past Imu's Maki yet, right? As far as I know. As much as I love Sanji, that's hella funny. I think it was just, like, the bluntness of the comment, which is just, like, it does, like, it's a comment that casually does Sanji so dirty, but it's said, like, without a hint of, like, malice. It's just like, hey, what if this terrible thing happened to... what if all of Sanji's, like, just the entire Sanji train essentially just crashed and burned in as humiliating of a manner as could possibly happen to a character that would destroy so many hopes and dreams of fans, and arguably just shit all over, like, the character's potential and you know, character work in general. And it's just like, hey, what if this shit happened? It's like, oh my god. No, I don't think that will happen. Fatingo, thanks for 5. Morge looking and sounding so sad about Oof, and frame 1 of the Unleashed video. He says, the Oof stream has got to be one of my favorite streams of all time. Well, 2 things can be true. I think the Oof stream is where, like, Morge streams really got their vibe, I guess, to begin with. I think that's where really it began. And the vibe essentially became me versus you all. Because you all would support a random viewer who sucks and is generally a terrible person over me, who's trying to bring you nothing but joy and entertainment, you know? Say Enjoyboy, thanks for the 5. Luffy and Blackbeard teaming up is something I haven't heard. It's hard to imagine them needing to fight Imu, but wouldn't that make it cool? I think the one moment I kind of thought maybe there's a Luffy and Joyboy team up, or Luffy and Blackbeard team up coming, is when Rox was talking about, like, I need 2 fruits to take on Imu, and it's going to be you and me, Harold, and we're going to do it together. But then it turned out the fruit is actually the Nidhogg fruit, right? So the parallel doesn't really hold, right? If anything, what it was setting up for was what we're getting right now, which is Luffy and Loki against Imu. I don't think I would like Luffy teaming up with Blackbeard at this point in the story. JP, I mean, you never know how Oda spins it, you know. JP, thanks for being a member for 41 months. If Blackbeard uses Imu's fruit to omen and weapon boost, I don't know what the implication is of that. Sorry, I don't fully understand. TMTSPS12, thanks for the 5. Oh, are you saying, like, on his subordinates? Yeah, that could happen. I don't think I would love that. I would rather the final villains for the Strats be strong on their own, but we'll wait and see. TMTSPS12, thanks for the 5. Maybe because Imu has been here for only a mere 10 chapters minus 4 flashback chapters. I don't know what that means. I guess that's in response to something. Imu's been here a while. At this point. Like, if you want to say minus 4 I guess minus 4 flashback chapters, but no, he arrived in 1189, right? So it's 11 chapters right there. We're on 1191, right? So, yeah, isn't that... I mean, the flashback was only 2 chapters, right? I think this is not... I think the math is not quite right, in my opinion. Or maybe it's about there. Yeah, like, let's say 10 chapters. I'm being technical at this point. He's been here for 10 chapters. I think you could also argue that Imu was here a lot longer as Gunko, earlier. But again, generally speaking, in terms of Imu fucking up the heroes, he's already done that, right? So if Oda's goal was just to establish how strong Imu is, break the heroes or whatever, and then have Imu go home so that they can fight him again next arc, that period has already passed. So now it appears more so like it's more of a Thriller Bark situation. Everyone gets fucked up, but then they get back up for round 2, and now it's a team battle, Henchme987, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 8 months. Does Imu even think anybody's gonna hunt down billion berry bounties, though? Like, who does he think is some Yonko level neutral party who could do that? I think it's just like a like, what's the world government supposed to do? Just stop giving out bounties? Because it's like, well, they're just too strong, so fuck it, no more bounties. You never know. And also, at the very least, it's incentive for the Marines, right? Do Marines get rewarded with bounties? Or is it supposed to be just part of the job? Peacefully Dancing, thanks for the 10. I brought the super chat with my free Robux. Thanks, Borge. Also, what do you think of Imu's omens? Looks like they have personalities. Maybe they're souls from citizens of the ancient kingdom. Yeah, I don't know. The personality thing is really interesting. So, also with them potentially being souls, I wonder if they've got like a finite amount that Imu can use. I don't know. It's really interesting. Really interesting. I talked about this in a whole video explaining how I believe Imu's powers work. Imu kind of laid it out for us, right? He uses corruption, and that's Dami Reversi, covenants, and that's his contracts, and then finally Maki is implied to be the power of envy, right? So is it the envy of the mass populace that Imu now gets to control? That's possible. Or is it Imu's own envy, and it functions like hockey? Who knows? JP, thanks for the 5. Imu maxing out the whole crew's bounties makes sense since he just acknowledged he made a mistake, not taking out people like Gaban and God Valley. Great point, JP. Like, if he's recognizing this Luffy and the Straughts as having the potential to be the next batch of those people, why would you not up the bounty? Obsidian Angel, thanks for the 10. I love how Imu low-diffed Loki, Luffy, Gaban, and then decides to power up. Yeah. It's interesting. I think... Yeah, I don't know. Imu's just flexing at this point. He's just flexing at this point. Tio Treviso, and also, I wonder if they're gonna have to beat his final transformation out of him, like get the upper hand on this transformation, then he transforms again. I don't know. Or if he's just gonna do it to flex again. Tio, thanks for the 2. The problem is literally Imu has SS3 type eyebrows. Is that the problem? Let me see. Let me look at the design again. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I think Super Saiyan 3 is a really cool transformation, by the way. I learned later on that a lot of Dragon Ball Z fans felt like Super Saiyan 3 is going too far, but when I was a kid, I just thought it was cool. Elijah Petty, thanks for the 2. I guess we won't get a Luffy Hockey Bloom versus Akainu. Sadly, probably not. I don't know how Luffy versus Akainu even makes sense at this point. Unless Imu, like, I think 2 things would have to happen. Like, Akainu gets some crazy strong Hockey Bloom, so now he's, like, Pirate King level or some shit. And then maybe Imu Dami reverses him or something. I don't know. Paul8221, thanks for the 2. I don't mind a dragon versus Akainu. They have history. But is the history that deep? Because it seems like they're not even, like... We didn't even get to see much of it. And it seems like Dragon left the Marines very early. Maybe we get Dragon versus Akainu. That could be interesting. And Akainu hates Dragon's son. So maybe there's something there. That could be good. That could be good. JP, thanks for the 5. Kid we brought back to carry a passed out Luffy like Law did in Marineford. OMG, the parallels, I'm shaking. Kid saving Luffy would be really sick, honestly. I think that would make people like Kid's character a lot better. Because the thing is, in Wano, if you look back through Wano, Kid never does anything that makes you like him. There's not one moment that makes you like him. And then his scenes against Big Mom, they're kind of lame, I guess, because even Law makes fun of it. He's like, "Oh, what net? Like you're just hitting her with metal shit." I don't know. Um, I kind of recall the dialogue kind of being like that. I might be mistaken. But yeah, JP, thanks the. Oh no, sorry, Tofi, thanks a lot. BTW, which of these three do you think is more possible? Oh, this is fun. Dragon versus Akainu, Dragon and Akainu versus Emu. Dragon kills Emu, and he gets a miraculous resurrection like Enel/Dofi. Ooh, okay, let's pretend I had gun to my head. I gotta pick one of these. I think maybe Dragon kills Emu and he gets a miraculous resurrection. I just feel like that's so similar to things that we've seen before that I could see that happening. Dragon and I think next in popular possibility, I would say Dragon and Akainu versus Emu. But I think it wouldn't just be Dragon and Akainu. I think it might be like a general team effort versus Emu in that case, with Akainu being one of them. And then Dragon versus Akainu. Look, it's really possible. That's a solid possibility as well. I think all three of those possibilities are. You're probably just getting what I'm biased towards wanting to see happen, rather than. I think I'd have to really sit and think, because Dragon versus Akainu is not a bad possibility whatsoever. Tiptio Treviso, thanks for 2. Could Blackbeard make new omens/weapons from his crew's Maki? Maybe. I mean, we don't really know how Maki works just yet, but we know that the Blackbeard pirates are chock full of envy, like they all desire things, you know? They're even envious of each other. Like, Avaldo Pizarro was talking about how he's envious of Blackbeard, his captain, getting all the attention. Cloud Garden RG, thanks for the 10. Hey, Morge, I'd love your thoughts on the writing at the top of the chapter between Gaban and Luffy before we cut down to Emu. To me, that was some of the most vulnerable and exposed we've seen Luffy. I think... Let me look again. Gramps, what is he? Yeah, because it's one of the few times that we see Luffy really, like, not scared, but he's genuinely like taken aback. But like what is he, right? Like not even who is he, like what is he, right? I feel like listen up, Strat, get your crew and leave Elbaf. There's no way I'm doing that. Yeah, I agree. This is really good. I think the scene is really good for Luffy. I think it gets overshadowed a little bit by what people are kind of calling Mickey Mouse writing of Luffy getting back up at the end of the chapter and being like, I'm ready to go again. But honestly, I like this because it just feels reminiscent of this whole scene. It feels reminiscent. So I've been talking for a while about like how this is a category 3 defeat, like one of those defeats that really shakes Luffy and puts him, like you said, in a more vulnerable sort of position where we see more of his character and not just like absolutely confident and just like, oh, I'll just shake this off and be good, right? So what I like about this is that this whole scenario has put Luffy in that state, but unlike other situations, like this whole situation feels similar to like really holding off Kizaru for them, right? But in this state, if you go back to that scene, the whole thing was Luffy saying to his crew, we need to run, right? Now we've flipped the scenario where basically now we've got Gaban trying to hold off Emu for Luffy, and Gaban's telling Luffy, you need to run, take your crew and run. But this time around, Luffy's saying, no, I'm going to, like, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stand and fight, right? So I just think that the growth potential here is really, really high, even if the manner in which people feel like Luffy's getting back up is, like, leaves a little bit to be desired. I think the writing for Luffy has been really good. It just depends on where this all goes, you know? And yeah, Luffy actually being worried about Gaban. You don't see Luffy genuinely worried that often, at least not in some time. I think Whole Cake was the last time we really saw Luffy genuinely worried. No, there was a moment where Kaido in Act 1, right? Kaido in Act 1 shoots his Boro breath at the crew, and Luffy's actually worried. So, and that's the fucking only time in Wano that you see Luffy actually worried for a moment. I love that in this short span of going up against Emu, we've already seen Luffy brought to that sort of mental state much more viscerally, you know? I'm also curious. One second. Shoot. I'm also curious. I feel like now would be a good time if you guys want to test out. Hold on. Uh, oh, okay. Hold on. So I also want to share this real quick, which is pretty cool. So I've shared this site before, but I want to do a little bit of a. We could do a little bit of a. Naturally, we do predictions every week, right? But with Lore Square, I wanted to share this, which is if you go to predictions, we can kind of do a thing where if people want to put their predictions down, we can upvote and downvote predictions as we see them, if that makes sense. So, for example, next chapter, I think this is my first time test running this. It's my first time test running this. So, in my opinion, next chapter, we see, I'll put this down. Emu gives Hudruden a beatdown. I'm gonna put this under character, or maybe battles. I'll put this under battles. All right. So I'm gonna put this down. What happens here? Yeah. So this is my prediction. I think Hudruden will be shown to be out of his element, and Emu will show he is weak again, but not necessarily knock him out. I think that's where we're headed. So this is my prediction for this. I'm gonna save this, and I believe now under chapter 1192 predictions, we've got this. So what I'm curious about is if you guys want to put down your predictions, I'm gonna share this link. If you guys want to put down your predictions and kind of just play with the site, next Friday, right? Next Friday, where we would normally have a actually, what we'll do is next chapter when 1192 comes out, I want to see whose was the most highly voted. We're gonna see whose was the most highly voted. Maybe next Monday, we'll see whose was the most highly voted, and then when the chapter actually comes out, I want to see whose predictions were actually correct out of this. So I'm gonna drop this link here for you guys. Let me drop this link here for you guys. But it's pretty easy to use, and you can basically see other people's predictions and everything, and vote people's predictions up and everything. And I know that people have started posting theories as well here. People have started posting theories. I want to take next Monday's stream. On next Monday's stream, we're going to go through, because people have really started putting a lot of interesting theories here. Next Monday's stream, we are going to go through, and we are going to play a little game where we next Monday stream or next Monday stream? We're gonna do next Monday stream. So Monday here's what's happening. Monday the 31st of August. Monday the 31st of August, we're gonna go through and we're just gonna read through some of your guys' theories, and we're gonna bounce some stuff around, and we're gonna see basically who out of you guys has, I guess, the most interesting theory going for you, at least with what's been going on right now. So if you guys want to if you have long form thoughts that you want to get out and you haven't been able to get it out yet, yeah, post it here. And as a stream, we can kind of determine, who we want to vote up, who we want to vote down, whose theories seem the best. So yeah, I'm happy to see people have started really using the site. I think this is cool. I think this is the way of the One Piece future of the community. And yeah, at least for predictions, if you want to check out the link that I just dropped, you guys might like that. All right. Tiptio says, there's my theory. Yeah, so you get some time. I'll remind you guys of this next Monday as well. But yeah, definitely the what do you call? Definitely the the following Monday, so Monday the 31st, we'll do some, we'll do a chat compares theories type of thing, or chat theory competition type of thing, and we'll see who we vote to the top. Continuing on. Magnus9450, thanks for the 10. Killing an immortal doesn't make you stronger than someone who doesn't. If Zoro and Sanji kill Killingham and Sommers, you'd have to put their Conqueror's Haki above Roger by their logic. I don't know if Zoro and Sanji are going to kill Sommers. I mean, like, I don't know if they're... Because Zoro and Sanji pretty much never kill their opponents, so I think it's kind of a moot point. So you're kind of saying, like, well, if they did this, that wouldn't make them stronger than Roger, but that's kind of putting a feat that I don't think they're going to accomplish in the first place, right? If, on the flip side, they did kill Sommers and Killingham, then we could have that discussion, but I don't think your example really holds, because they, as far as we know, they're probably not going to do that. I don't know if Zoro and Sanji have ever killed an opponent that they fought, I can't even imagine how would Sanji kill Killingham with kicks. I guess earlier they took off Killingham's head somehow, but I just cannot imagine Oda having Sanji kicking someone to death. So I don't really know what and I don't know if it makes you stronger than someone who doesn't, but it puts your Haki above someone who doesn't, right? So like even Sommers versus Gaban, right? Gaban straight up cut Sommers in half, and that still didn't kill Sommers, right? So that means something as far as we know, right? Magnus, thanks for the 5. It's about the mechanics of the immortality, not the power behind the Conqueror's Haki. You know what? Maybe it has something to do with the heart. So maybe it's the mechanical heart that's the thing that we kind of saw Sommers had. So maybe we get some clarification with that, right? So I agree with that. If we get some clarification on how the heart works, the mechanical heart, then maybe that could help with this. But it's kind of a moot point because we know that Gaban, at least against the same target, right? Gaban couldn't stop Herald's regeneration at all, right? Whereas Loki could. And then on top of that, Gaban outright says, in Herald's case, right? Gaban couldn't imagine anyone, meaning including Whitebeard, like fucking no one on the planet, stopping Herald, right? So at the very least, Gaban views Loki's, let's say, attack power with Haki and Lightning combined as being above anybody that Gaban knows, I think we could say that. So maybe not the most look, I think it's possible Prime Roger, Prime Whitebeard still above Loki. It would just have to mean that Prime Roger and Prime Whitebeard are like head and shoulders above Rox and Herald. I don't know if that's the case, but we've never actually gotten like a concrete comparison between them because, we know Roger and Whitebeard get stronger as time goes on. It's just like how much stronger. We don't know a lot of these things, right? Henchme987, thanks for the 2. So is Bum Ruden stronger than Zoro now? I mean, I don't think so. I don't think Bum Ruden even knows Haki from what we've seen. So I kind of just take it as like he got a good shot in. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 5. Lore Square is a great idea. I make a lot of expansive theories on Reddit, but on the website you can't put images for the panels. Is there a way to add that? I don't know. Max, if you're watching, if there's a way to put that into the site. Right now, this is all, you guys can consider it all beta testing. The person who's designed the site watches these streams or at least looks at chat afterwards. So just get your comments out. Just get your comments and thoughts out. Just consider it beta testing for the site. Yeah, right now it can be a playground for my community. Over time, it'll expand higher. Then how strong was that shield? I don't know. I don't know. Tornado says, Morge, do you seriously believe End of Story Sanji is stronger than Kaido? Because you have End of Story Sanji above Prime Gaban, who you say is above Kaido. Yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah. I don't get it. I don't get the obsession with Kaido. Kaido is, like, we've moved past, he's small potatoes in the grand scheme of things, to use a quote from Brand New Day. He's small potato. He doesn't mean jack shit at this point. it's just, it doesn't, like, I don't know how you can be watching the events of, now we've gotten context. We've gotten through God Valley. We've gotten through broader lore, right? We've gotten through, like, now we understand it's a much bigger picture than this stuff. Like, we're seeing Emu, Joy Boy, First World, Second World, gods and shit, right? At this point, Luffy, end of story, is going to be like so many tiers above Kaido. Like, so many tiers above Kaido, right? Yeah, Kaido is a hard fight for Luffy, like a really hard fight for Luffy back in Wano. Luffy probably couldn't have won without help, right? But the same was true of, like, Luffy versus fucking Doflamingo in Dressrosa, right? A few arcs later, Luffy would fucking slap the shit out of Doflamingo. The same is going to be true for Kaido, you know? That's not really... Luffy's going to be so many tiers above Kaido. Yeah, I think Zoro and Sanji and Destroyer are at least going to be Kaido's tier or above that, I think things can feel... Because right now you kind of just see whatever you see right now feels like the limit, so it's hard to imagine characters getting stronger. Because, if you went back to Dressrosa and you saw how much Luffy was, like, really struggling against Doflamingo, how we needed the villagers to help, how we needed Law to damage Doflamingo, etc., then it's like, you kind of know that obviously Zoro and Sanji, it just feels like Doflamingo is so strong in Dressrosa. If you just go back and read the reactions and everything like that, right? But in a couple arcs, it doesn't mean that much. Like, a few arcs later, by the end of Wano, yeah, Zoro and Sanji would both beat Doflamingo from Dressrosa. Like, it just feels like Doflamingo's really strong at that point in time, right? Yeah, he fucking humiliates Sanji in Dressrosa, but Sanji, a couple power-ups later, is comfortably above Doflamingo. Zoro, same thing, right? That's just how... I don't know why people view Kaido as so different in this case. I guess because Kaido has the rumors, so that's what makes it different, because, like, he was supposed to be the ceiling of the world, but now it's kind of like multiple things. One, it's become apparent that Kaido is very much not the ceiling of the world. Two, it's become very apparent that Kaido isn't even the ceiling in terms of pirates in the last, like, 40 years, right? And then three, it's become clear that, like, One Piece at this point, it's not even about, like, the last 40 years, like Roger and the Old Gen, etc. Like, now it's expanding to literally last 3 millennia, There's, like, it's so much bigger than what we initially thought, in terms of how grand we're going, in terms of the scale, god fruits, crazy powerful beings from, like, the second world, probably the first world, yada yada. It's like, Kaido and Big Mom were just who people thought were the strongest in the world after all the actual strongest characters in the last 40 years died. And even all those characters, like, Roger, Whitebeard, etc., Rocks, Herald, they're just a blip in the grand scheme of things, which goes, like, 3 worlds back, right? So you got to keep in perspective, who are we following the story of? We're following the story of, like, the hero who isn't just the strongest character of, like, the last 20 years, or the strongest character of the Great Pirate Era, or the strongest character of, the last century, or the strongest character of, like, the last millennium, right? We're following the story of the character who's going to become, like, essentially the Messiah, and the strongest being in, like, the last 3 cycles of the fucking planet, And so his right and left-hand man, yeah, they're gonna be above a random pirate from, like, who people thought was the strongest for about 2 years. That's not weird to say. Like, we're following literally, like, the sun god to end all sun gods. His right and left-hand man are, like, a much, 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 much bigger deal than Kaido and Big Mom. It's just, I don't know why this thinking hasn't expanded at this point. Like, it's not even in the same ballpark in terms of significance, right? That's not to say I think Zoro and Sanji are gonna, like, fucking stomp Kaido at the end of story. Like, Kaido's no pushover. But Kaido looked impressive when he was stacked up against a bunch of characters who were Yonko commander level and below. That's it. Kaido has never looked impressive against anyone above that. Not Big Mom, Not Odin. Not even like, I guess you could argue day 1 Gear 5 Luffy. That's like, I don't get where this Kaido fixation comes from at this point. Anyway. Dre5714, thanks for the 2. Morch, who do you think will die this arc? Who do I think will die this arc? Who do I think will die this arc? Maybe Gaban. Maybe Kuma. I feel like Luffy will succeed in saving Gaban at this point, so I don't know. And Gaban's got a kid. I think maybe Gaban won't die because of Colin and shit. So I think maybe Kuma, if we got to pick somebody, honestly, or Yarl. Kuma or Yarl. Where are you getting the figure 3 millennia? Isn't it 800 years if we include Joy Boy? First world, second world, third world. The ancient lab was what? Like, because Luffy's going to bring an end to... Like, he's the one who solves everything, all the problems of the last 3 worlds, right? Ancient lab is like the first world. Ancient lab was like, what, 2,600 years ago or something like that? I forget the exact number. Mitchum28, thanks for the 5. Not sure how to feel about Imu lamenting not killing Roger and company on God Valley. So much happened conveniently because Imu chose not to do anything. Yeah, I think, I mean, I just think Imu didn't view them as big threat. Because, like, you gotta remember, it's, like, hindsight's 2020. At that point in time, pirates weren't a big deal. Like, pirates hadn't been a big deal in the grand scheme of things in centuries, throughout the Void Century, like throughout the third world, as far as we know. Like, pirates had not been a problem. Rox was the first pirate that kind of posed a problem, right? And he had assembled this big crew and everything like that, and he was the first one that kind of like, and even Rox, Imu didn't take 100% seriously, because Rox showed up in the flower room, talked some shit. Imu didn't bother to kill him there. I don't think Imu really foresaw what the issue was, and then Rox kind of became an issue, and Rox was really the first force that was like a human, you know, not like a giant from Elbaf or something. Rox was the first force that was kind of like assembling a squad to try and challenge the world, and Imu cut him down. Imu had no way of really knowing that, you know, he ordered the destruction of the island, he, like, you know, blasted a hole through God Valley and everything like that, but I think it's fair that Imu didn't really fully grasp that Rox wasn't the only issue. Because just look at the other people. Roger, before God Valley, was a fucking bum. All he did was sail around chasing girls. Like, why would Imu think for a second that, like, oh, this is a dude that is actually gonna go unearth all of the mysteries of, you know, the Void Century and the past, and then shout out to the entire world that they need to start trying to dig shit up and find out, and, like, you know, find the One Piece, essentially find the truth of the world and cause a big, like, spark this huge worldwide wave of pirates that lead to rebellion, right? Before God Valley, Imu would have no way of knowing that. Roger even only showed up to God Valley because he was after Shaki, you know? Rox was really the problem. Imu figured, kill Rox, pirates just go back to being random pirates, you know? Like, back then, pirates really were just random pirates. Like, it was small time shit. Like, pirates are just people that go around robbing people, yada yada. That's it. Rox was the one who brought them all together, gave them kind of a cause that was actually bearing their fangs against the world government. Imu was like, let me put a stop to that, kill Rox. He definitely did not guess what the other pirates would turn into. And the other thing is, to be fair, most of, like, even the other pirates who went around making, you know, their little empires and stuff like that, like Kaido, Big Mom, Shiki, they weren't the true problem. It really was just Roger and them going after the One Piece. Because once they found out the One Piece, then they shouted that out to the world. And now all of these like a whole new generation of up and coming pirates are now gunning for the One Piece, which is bad for Imu. And the pre-existing remnants of the Rox pirates, which is namely, you know, Kaido, Big Mom, them, like, now they're also actually, like, building an army to try and go after the One Piece, you know? Yeah. Andrew Noel says complacency, basically. Yeah, but it's kind of like, 800 years there hadn't been a problem. First problem pops up, Emu takes care of it, rocks. I think you literally would not be able to predict looking at, you know, who Roger was before then, that he would turn into that much of a problem, Enderanami says mental gymnastics to justify why Limu sat on his hands. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, maybe. Arguably. Kurokami Ninjimi says you're explaining why it's genius that Roger started out less serious. I have no problem with Roger starting out less serious. If you go back and watch my videos, like chapter reviews, streams, etc., early Rocks flashback stuff when we first started seeing young Roger, I thought it was fun. I thought it was funny. I was like, this is so silly and ridiculous. The future king of the pirates acting like this, right? All I wanted for Roger was just like, okay, like, I would love to see the transformation from this version of him to the... Oh, man. Okay, hold on. Let me take this real quick. Hold on. Hey, hello? Alright, guys. Alright. I have to hop off stream now. We had a nice long stream, but yeah, I just gotta jump off now. Alright. Thank you all for tuning in. Yeah, this was fun. Definitely get your predictions in for the chapter, and if you have interesting theories, put that on Lore Square. We're gonna do a competition for that Monday the 31st. So, we'll do a nice long stream and look through you all's theories, and you guys can kind of see what each other's got. So I think that'll be fun. All right, everybody. More just receiving orders from a CIA handler. No, it's a. You guys might remember a couple weeks back, stream had to be delayed because a friend of mine was going through something. That situation is still continuing, so yeah, kind of just gotta hop off here. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed. I had a good time, and yeah, with that.